What's the one thing you thought could never happen to you, but did? I was 51. I had the day off and was feeling great. Decided to take an afternoon nap. As soon as my head hit the pillow, I had a massive heart attack that destroyed 40% of my heart. I woke up 3 days later on a ventilator and had no idea what the heck happened. Before I was out, I screamed for my wife. The rescue squad was close by, but the closest hospital with full cardiac care was 35 minutes away. I found out I coded multiple times while being transported, but they were able to shock me back each time. The type of heart attack is often called a widowmaker. This happened 11 years ago, and even though I now have congestive heart failure, I'm grateful for every bonus day I've been given. My husband, dying, walked into our bedroom and found him unconscious in bed. He'd been there all day. I just thought he was sleeping the day away since he'd been working so hard for days before. He was not sleeping. I just knew something was off as soon as I stepped into the room. I called his name multiple times, then I touched him, ice cold. I will never forget that moment. My late husband, he looked like he was asleep, but I knew that he wasn't. I knew that as soon as I walked over to him that it would be real. So, I just stood there and watched him for a long time, waiting for him to move, but he didn't. It's been 23 years, but that seems like yesterday sometimes. Found my wife cold on the floor when I got home from work. 4 years ago. Still struggling. I am better in a lot of ways, but for years later I still reach across the bed some mornings. A snake fell from a tree and bit me on the head. Ada, it's incredibly ironic because I've always been more terrified of snakes than anyone I know, so of all people, it happened to me. What's the one thing you thought could never happen to you, but did? Last year, a car crashed straight through my kitchen. I spent a week with my friend as a kid while my parents were on a vacation. I slept in a den they converted from a covered porch. I hated it, because the house was right up against a highly trafficked road, and this room was the foremost part of the house, and the cars kept me up all night. On the last day, my parents came in late. I was supposed to stay one extra night, but I called to see if they wouldn't mind getting me so I could sleep at home. They did. Like 6 hours later, in the middle of the night, an 18-wheeler drove right through the room, from one side to the other, completely obliterating it and damaging part of the main house. If I were there, well, I wouldn't be here. I was shot, also winning a $1,000 in the lottery 3 times from the same kind of ticket. Getting laid off unexpectedly after years of loyalty to my company. It was a wake-up call about job security and the need to always be prepared. I was at a place for almost 15 years. There were layoffs happening, but I was naive and thought that my reputation would get me by. I had heard there was a D-Day coming up. If you made it through to the other side, you were good. I made it through and then got the call. There was a second secret list. I learned that reputation, hard work, and loyalty doesn't matter. All that matters is the salary sitting next to your name on someone's spreadsheet, more likely someone who has never ever met you. My wife died in a car accident. She was on her way home from work. A truck ran a stop sign. She hit him and died. I talked to her less than 5 minutes prior to the crash. Tomorrow isn't promised, guys. Tell the people you care about how much they mean to you. Hold them close. So, I'm at the bus stop when this older lady asks for directions to the hospital. I decide to walk her there, and we chat. Turns out, she's a famous author in disguise, researching for her next book. Fast forward, she thanks me, and a few months later, her book drops. I check it out, and there's my name in the acknowledgments. Never thought helping someone out would land me a shout-out in a best-selling novel. Life is wild, man. Murder, She Wrote was the best when it was airing. I got into some of the episodes in the early 90s. That was the show you watched after 60 Minutes. Pat Summerall would announce 60 Minutes, then Murder wrote during the football game near the end. Got cancer? Wish me luck. Just remember, cancer can't beat you. Worst case scenario, it's a tie. Lost myself and my life to alcoholism before hitting 30, somehow survived rock bottom, and looking at for years sober on Independence Day. I got fat. Lol. When you're slim fit pretty much your whole life, you take it for granted in many ways. It was very easy, at least it was for me, to fall into a rut of bad habits for a variety of reasons, and now I'm in a place where I've got a decent amount of weight to lose, and I feel like I'm back at square one when it comes to fitness. If you don't use it, you can in fact lose it. Yes, I thought I was fat as a teenager, but I look at pictures now and see firsthand what teenage insecurity means and how insane I was. I was tiny, aging, bad habits, PCOS, thyroid issues, and a lot of antidepressants and antipsychotics later, and I'm now exactly what I felt I was 10 years ago. It's just crazy to see small mannequins in stores and stuff and be like I would literally fit in that not too long ago, and now it looks like baby clothes. We had such a warped sense of body image as teens. I was so incredibly thin I was almost considered underweight. Now I've gained so much weight I don't feel like myself. I was 120 in high school at 5 feet 9. My normal after high school and through my 20s was around 135 to 145. Now I'm at 190 and I don't even know how I got here. Being in a domestically violent relationship. Same. I think most people think they'd leave if a partner ever got violent, but they don't understand how insidious it is. It's surreal how it happens too. Everyone seems to think you argue one day and they just knock you out, but sometimes it creeps up and they almost desensitize you. Punching a wall when they are angry, okay, it's nothing. We can patch it up, a small push, it's nothing. Grabbing your arms while you argue, it's nothing. Throwing my cat against the wall during an argument, what the fuck. Suddenly strangling me when I try to leave. I was so young and I kept thinking, wait, how did I get here? Of course, everyone else could see it, and how bad the small things were. My brother-in-law had a psychotic break after secretly stopping his medication, and he killed my sleeping father before taking his own life. Just the night before, everything seemed normal. We were laughing and talking, and he even asked me to make a specific meal for dinner the next day. 8 hours later, our family was shattered. I had some college with this kid, incredibly nice, quiet, super smart and talented. He won national competitions for the fiddle. His family was super religious and conservative. They were even on an episode of Wife Swap as the foil to a super liberal family. Very insular, homeschooled, and only hung out with other church members and spent most of their time with the family. Anyway, one day this kid snapped and shit his mom and brother and then himself. His dad and another brother found him when they got home and called 911. He survived, but mom and brother died. I have no idea what, if anything, triggered it. I watched a YouTube documentary on that. It turns out his mom was religiously abusive to the point that it took forever to declare him mentally fit for trial because he was legit scared he would go to hell if he attended trial via video. It seems like kind of like Gypsy Rose's situation. Suffering with anorexia and recovering from anorexia. We watched an eating disorder documentary in school, and I remember seeing footage of people in hospital crying over having to eat chips and thinking WTF is wrong with them. A few years later, being in and out of eating disorder units was the next 15 years of my life. I was so entrenched I thought I'd never recover. Hell, I had consultants tell me I'd be a revolving door patient for the rest of my life. As I was leaving my last hospital admission, the consultant told me he'd see me back in a month. That was 5 years ago. It's not be smooth sailing, but I'm in full recovery now, with a full-time job I love, able to enjoy life and eat freely. The life of hospitals is a distant memory. I was an innocent bystander who got shot in the chest during a drive-by. I never thought I'd get stuck in a revolving door. Turns out, trying to exit gracefully is harder than it looks, especially when the door has other plans for you. Bad stuff: mass shooting. Good stuff: I never thought I would get married, but we're coming up on 5 years in the fall. My dad was at the Jason Aldean concert that got shot up in Vegas. It's the largest non-government mass shooting in U.S. history now. He was there with a coworker while in Vegas on business. He works in the entertainment industry, and they left to get some food about 10 minutes before the shooting started. He was in the food court by the aquarium when the first shots were fired, meaning that the shooter was between him and the crowd, but it was still scary. The first I heard about it was him marking himself safe on Facebook. Getting a really serious case of pneumonia as an active, healthy 40-year-old. I went from feeling a bit ill, developing a cough, to a coma in intensive care on life support in just 3 days. Spent 5 weeks in a coma with full lung and then kidney failure, and another 3 doing physio and recovering. Traveling overseas for vacation. For the longest time growing up, I thought my only option for going overseas was to get into military service. Never thought I'd be able to afford to do it otherwise, but I did and have done it several times. I have a few big T's, like being sawed as a kid, teen, adult. Abusive parents, being homeless for a time, being in a DV relationship, lost to babies, lots of trauma. But truly the one thing that's happened that I never thought would. Finding my husband and the happiness we have together. There's some cheese for you. Edit a thank you for award. Lots of love to everyone out there. I had leukemia as a child and was told I'd never be able to have kids due to radiation and chemotherapy. I have 2 healthy kids who graduated from high school. So to the doctors at MC Master in Hamilton, thank you. Got attacked by an entire swarm of killer bees on top of a mountain. Almost fell off the mountain running down the trail and nearly considered jumping in my panic. Was raking bees out of my hair as they tried to get to my scalp, and had to cover my face with my shirt to prevent them from climbing into my face holes. Thought I was gonna die. Got pretty scraped up and stung as I clawed my way down the trail without stopping. I never knew the sound of a swarm could be so loud and terrifying. I had nightmares for weeks after. Another hiker in the same area had been attacked by killer bees a few years prior, and they stayed on his body for 8 hours, preventing rescuers from recovering his body. I now have an extreme fear of flying insects. LOL. Bird shit hit me in the mouth while driving once. I pulled over and insta-vommed, called my boss and told her I would be late. I was interning at a bank at the time. She told me to take the day off, but also to get a lottery ticket. Apparently, getting shit on by a bird is good luck. Anywho, I bought 2 $1 scratch-offs, won $50 on both. My grandma lived close by, so I showered there. I scratched the tickets while smoking a cigarette with her in her kitchen. Good memory. I got sober, started drinking whenever I could at 13, was addicted to cocaine by 19, thought I'd die before 30, and was completely okay with that. I'm almost 5 years clean, 30 next month. Losing my mom. Like, yeah, it's expected to outlive your parents, it's the natural way. But losing my mom last year before I even turned 21 from suicide destroyed me. I thought she would always be here. I thought she would grow old, be there when I get married and have kids. It still doesn't feel real. Hug your mom and tell her you love her. You'll miss those annoying calls and texts. I've made it to 1 year and 29 days self-harm free. I have never been clean for this long, so I'm really proud of myself. My mom and I celebrated my year clean time at Dave & Buster's.